So I want to let you know, and I want to let the viewers and listeners know, that this man is not standing alone. We will stand with him. And the next step to be taken is you, those who follow and who listen, you all have to stand with Victor Roberts. You have to stand with Archie. You have to stand with Arnold Roberts. You have to stand with us, yeah. Archie.
Gentlemen, I just want to let you know, for the last 10 minutes, the internet was cut. And I just had to cross over to portable internet. So we back up. So the last 10 minutes, people may not have heard, right? So we back up on Facebook, and I need to rejoin on YouTube.
Okay, so let me just recap that very quickly so that, Victor, everybody will know. I don't know up to what time they would have got. But I was saying that Victor and I have a personal relationship, but that is something that I hope people would have gotten, that we are really brothers, and in this politics, all of us, we are like one family. And as a family, the one thing that we believe in is in betterment of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And then we moved on. I was commenting when they had to go and ask for one tape of one program from radio and TV Jagrati, why they showed up there with the same kind of show of force and issued a warrant, which they didn't want to produce, they didn't give a copy, and you had to go to court to get it. So there is precedent now that when you come with a warrant, you have to leave a copy. You have to give a copy. You must show it, you must leave a copy. So, Victor, that was the point. Actually, I hope that the viewers and listeners, and I was making the point, viewers and listeners, that I want to make it abundantly clear that Victor Roberts is not standing alone. And I have called out the names of the lawyers who I have already been in touch with, and vice versa. They have been in touch with me because they are very concerned, vexed, angered to some extent about what they are hearing about this show of force by the police. So Mr. Kyle Taklal Singh is on standby for the weekend and otherwise, but essentially over the weekend, because it is spite, it is malice if they come over the weekend and they want to take Victor Roberts down to a police station and keep him there for the weekend and then possibly charge him on Monday morning and then carry him to court on Tuesday morning. That is what you call wickedness at the highest.
But charging me for something that I don't have.
Well, we will get to these trumped up issues and charges. So, Victor, for the benefit of them, Kyle Taklal Singh, Renuka Rambajan, as I said, she is somebody who is very, 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 I have to say, she's a brilliant young lady. She is more based in the criminal arena, right, criminal law. Renuka has already given me her commitment that she's on standby for the weekend. Ms. Renuka Rambajan, most of you would know her. She entered as a UNC temporary senator in the Senate, and she debated. And when she debated, she took pure domination of the Senate because of her style and because of her agility with the law and how it is she carries herself. Then I have already spoken to Mr. Stefan Ramkisoon, who is an attorney at law, young, bright attorney at law, who does both civil and criminal law. And Victor, I have already charted some themes, a strategy that we will employ moving forward, which is we are going to be issuing FOIA and letters to the commissioner over this weekend, We're not going to let this sit, and wait for them for something to happen. We are not going to be reactive about what has already taken place during the week with Mr. Victor Roberts in the full glare of his family. His family will not be sleeping properly at nights. So we will be issuing some letters as early as tomorrow over the weekend, and I want some FOIAs to be sent out by Monday morning. And I will be standing with you with Victor Roberts. And the last point I want to recap, Archie, in case those who missed it when the internet was down, is that, listen, Victor Roberts must never stand alone. Victor Roberts, he is being supported by political colleagues, by people who know him on a personal basis like myself. You all, as viewers and listeners of the douglAR politics and of UNC and being involved in whatever way you are, you must never let Victor Roberts stand alone if something like that should happen to him. These are things, this is serious. I remember recently I was telling Mr. Sean Sobers, attorney at law, I did not get a chance to call him, but I am sure he will be on standby as well over this weekend in case of anything that is happening or should happen. So I want to say, Victor Roberts, we are with you. I want to tell viewers and listeners, we must all bound ourselves together as a unit, and we must stand strong against any act of oppression. And what I am hearing here, it is going down the pathway of oppressive action on behalf of agents of the government. And we must not allow this. So, Victor, some question you were asking me, but I want to tell you that, number one, we have to not be reactionary, and we will not be reactionary to what we are hearing. Number two, if anything should come to pass, as I say, we have lawyers who will be on standby to meet you wherever you are. Number three, your family must be, basically told of what is taking place. And, you have, as we say, we tend to say backup plans. But this is really, they must be aware that, look, you are not standing alone. So I want to send a message to Victor Roberts' wife and daughter and children, sons. I want to send a message that Victor Roberts and his family will not be alone. And I am depending on the strength of the community who watches on these programs. Mm-hmm. So, Victor, I don't know what other questions you want to have addressed with that particular issue. But I am of the view that what we are told, so on 1 minute, you are told that you are somehow leading a bandwagon of people who are engaging in showing, and I don't know of any unlawful action that was taken. So if they were lawfully initiating and protesting and whatever they were doing, right, I don't know if the police has an issue with that, there's a way you go about doing it. You have to go down on site, you have to take footage, you have to talk to people, and whatever it may be, and enlighten them as to if it is they have committed some offense, what is the offense they have committed. But to come post the fact of something having taken place, because you hear somebody say something who said something to a third person, and I don't even think it's that, Victor. I think they are acting on instructions.
I think what has happened is that from what I understand, there's absolutely nobody leading that protest, because I wake up in the morning, somebody call and say, tire burning in the road. As usual, I go with my phone and I cover everything that happened, whether it's flooding, fire, earthquake, house fall down, something I do. So I went out, I started to film what going on. I asked 1 or 2 questions, who in charge? Nobody, While that happening, boom, we hear about our next fire lower down the road. While that happening, we hear about an hour after that, and just the place has gone wild. So actually, from what I'm seeing, I am not seeing some organized. I think people just acting because people just can't buy food and people just can't provide for the family, people can't pay the bills, and people just decide, look, enough is enough. You understand? But the police, one of the officers said that for something of this magnitude, the onlyest person down here could do
mobilize
that is you. So I said to the police, I said, well, I am not Stephen McClatchy, I am not the member of parliament. The police said, well, while you are not elected as a member of parliament, we know that you control everybody. As well, if that was the case, then I would have been in the parliament if I did control everybody. So I just dismissed the dotage talk with them and so on. And the fact of the matter is, when my wife came out to tape, they had a problem with that. But I willfully tell her, go back inside, forget them, because these people really can't intimidate me, Of course, my wife, and up to today, my son, every time he see a police vehicle, he feeling, well, daddy, they're coming for you. Yeah, so the last little one here. But other than that, I really don't care about Hines, I don't care about Rowley, I don't care about the Commissioner of Police, I really don't care about these people, because once these people does not obey the law, we have a Commissioner of Police who sit down and saw what the Prime Minister and Bliss Passad and the President did with the Police Service Commission. And as far as I know, there isn't even an investigation into why the police service collapsed. And I think the acting commissioner might be very well happy as to what happened, because of the collapse, he now sits in a chair where he have on his pajamas. He doesn't even have a suit to fit the chair, because from where I sit, I think that the acting commissioner of police is one of the biggest idiots that ever to sit on that chair. That is my personal view. That is not the view of anybody. I believe the acting commissioner of police is an idiot. And if he doesn't know what the definition of an idiot means, he could check it out. You understand?
Victor, I smile. I smile because on my way down in the traffic, I saw somebody send something to me, and I'm trying to find it now. But what it was is that basically they put up is a Halloween image, is a Halloween image that they put up there, and it has the commissioner of police, right, acting top cop, and they put him. And I said, you know, I thought maybe to lighten the mood and stuff, I thought, well, we could show it on there, but I will not show it on there because I think part of it as well, they have, well, this person as a Halloween costume comes, and same thing, the suit does not fit really. They have a statement that you can rent with or without the brain. It comes with or without a brain. It went to, so I didn't want to show that on air, but what you are saying there...
Well, I would have liked to show that, because from what they say there, that kind of describes Fitzgerald Hines. What they say come with or without the brain. I saw Fitzgerald Hines this week walking, not walking, and I also saw Jacob by the side walking. So I said, but wait now, like what really happening to us in this day and age? It seems as though that the police service has now become a PNM party group. That is what it seems to me.
Well, Victor, I'm glad we're going down this road. Mr. Sean Sober's attorney at law, who sits from time to time as a sitting senator as well. Myself, we had the weekly press conference, the midweek press conference. And I had to make that point for the second time. The first time I made the point in a press conference, I am saying, and the public, not just Rambally or Victor Roberts or Anil Roberts or you know, the douglAR politics, people in the country are saying that they are seeing front page after front page after front page after a second page after 5 or 6 pages every day in the papers. They are seeing that there has been a collapse of a criminal case before the courts. They are also seeing that in terms of what caused the collapse, it was effectively a collusion which took place between the then Attorney General, Faris Al-Rawi, and a person who's turned state witness. And you are seeing that they did things which was outside the remit of law. Meaning that if you had to engage in discussions, and people know what I'm talking about, you have here the collapse of a criminal case, and you have where you are seeing that Al-Rawi was meeting or talking by WhatsApp and otherwise with one Roger Kewal Singh, who was the attorney for Vincent Nelson, and you are hearing and you are reading these things, and you are only hearing deafening silence from the members of the government who have been engaged in this. And I want to know if we were calling on the police from day one, listen, you need to get these people devices, iPad, cell phone, whatever, tablet, whatever it is, you need to get it, because you need to be able to get whatever communications were passing through these phones and whatever it may point to, because we are talking about a potential offense of perverting the course of justice, and that is a serious criminal offense. If somebody is charged before the courts, they have rights too. So we asked that question from day one. Where is the police service? Why are they not doing something? And this week we had to ask that question, and we wanted to know whether or not Jacobs, in the first case when we asked the question, I know at that particular press conference about 2 weeks ago, we know that the person who was in charge was not Jacobs. It was somebody who was filling in. I think it was Erla Christopher, whoever it was. So we called on that acting commissioner. Now it is Jacobs. I had to ask Jacobs on this midweek presser, are you afraid to act? Are you afraid to take the steps, which are the legal steps that is now cast upon you as police officers, to go and question these members of government as to their involvement in the potential commission of an offense, namely perverting the course of justice, and you are not doing it because you are fearful that you are somehow in line, you are to be favored to take on the commissioner of police position, and therefore you are not doing it? I asked that question openly.
But is it the same Kewal Singh that the honorable leader of the opposition wrote to the police commissioner making a complaint in relation to some vehicle, some sale of some vehicle and some transfer and some discrepancy? And isn't the same Jacob, acting commissioner, that wrote to the leader of the opposition and asked for help to find the witness? So if the commissioner of police would write the leader of the opposition and asking for some assistance to find the person, then that speaks volume. It's either the police service itself, the investigative arm of the police service, have since collapsed, or it is a clear case of the incompetency of the acting commissioner of police, because he have to his disposal the whole apparatus, the whole arms of the police service. And if it is a situation, but I think I understand what happened, because if it is the same individual with Faris and the car, and it is the same individual who is tied up as the lawyer for Nelson, and it's the same individual that the Attorney General at the time would have a three-way conversation, then it tells you that something definitely wrong.
Well, Victor, I want to agree with you. And at this point, I want to say it. I mean, I am saying this as Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West because I was present, fully present in the Parliament. Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, leader of the opposition, leader of the United National Congress, went to the Parliament, and the warning signs were put out clearly on the wall. She wrote it out on the wall for all and sundry to see. And the concern that she had at that point in time was that you were seeing this kind of uncanny kind of relationship between Faris Al-Rawi, he was still Attorney General at the time, you were seeing that relationship with him, and then he was a commissioner, police service commissioner, Roger Kewal Singh.
Right.
The sale of the vehicle, the questionable sale of the vehicle, even I at that time was wondering, well, you know, this thing, it too blatant. I mean, how could something like this, is it really true? But when the dots were actually being connected by Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, and she was putting it there in the Parliament and outside of Parliament, now you are beginning, as they say, to see the chickens come home to roost. And I have to say full kudos to her, because she pointed out the warning signs. That indemnity agreement was being questioned. From the time it started to circulate, people started to ask the questions, is an indemnity agreement really, because we were not seeing the full document, it was being circulated piecemeal, however it came out, we don't know, maybe some whistleblower, right, put it out there. And we were asking the questions and the government refused to answer. No member of the government, the Prime Minister sat down there, right? Like he was just, you know, watching on as he saw goats go by in the Parliament or outside the Parliament. He was tending to his animals and he didn't say anything. Al-Rawi did not respond, and what we were seeing was, we were wondering whether or not is there some agreement that is being entered or has been entered between himself and this Vincent Nelson. And it turned out that the same person who was Police Service Commissioner, who at the same time we were concerned about the relationship, the same person now, along with Al-Rawi, we are hearing now that messages were being passed on WhatsApp. And Vincent Nelson is the person who has come now, it is reported in the papers, not Rambally saying it and not Victor Roberts. Vincent Nelson is saying clearly now that how Roger Kewal Singh went home by Al-Rawi to talk about this indemnity. Do you all understand what is taking place? There are no boundaries, you know, Victor Roberts. No respect for institutions anymore, you know. No regard for what is the conventions and protocols associated with the rule of law. And this is what passes off as governance in Trinidad and Tobago. And people out there, this is indeed the biggest scandal yet in the last 60 years. We have been an independent nation for 60 years. This is the biggest scandal yet. And people need to understand what is at stake. Victor, I am glad you raised this, you know. If it is, and well, the point we started off is, why isn't Jacobs, acting top cop Jacobs, why isn't he issuing a statement to say, well, I have been seeing these statements in the media, and it is every day. So I mean, if he missed it one day or something, but he happened to travel, I think Diwali weekend, and he came back the same weekend, right?
So we would expect that the acting commissioner of police would put a statement out there telling the country that, look, we have seen, or this has been brought to my attention via the newspaper or what, and I've since appointed an investigative team to look into this matter. But the acting commissioner of police seems to take more time in working with Fitzgerald Hines while Hines greeting people than actually looking into this matter, because there is so much matters that is hanging from since 2016 in terms of investigation. Camille Robinson wages, Foster commits, this one, that one. And we are not hearing anything from the Commissioner of Police. And as you rightly say, my brother, this is the biggest scandal to hit Trinidad and Tobago. And yet to the end of the Commissioner of Police is still down.
Well, it is so bad, Victor, that the Minister of National Security is doing the commissioner work. Because I saw a report where he went and he talking to the criminals. According to him, he went there and he know why. He said that the people didn't shoot. Remember the child got shot and whatever else and stuff. I mean, as unfortunate as that is, you need to get to the bottom of that so it doesn't repeat itself. But he coming now and making excuses for the criminals because this is Fitzgerald Hines, Minister of National Security. 1 minute, he go on a morning program and say, it cannot be my job to make people feel safe.
Yeah.
That's not my job. Remember, he said that, It is not the job of him as National Security Minister to make people in this country feel safe. The next minute, he says, the government and myself, the Prime Minister and myself, the National Security Council, and man, he go on pell-mell. He said, it's not our jobs to catch the criminals. We must just simply make sure that, administratively, we are doing what we have to do. When I get up in the parliament one day and I see him, carrying on like he was taking offense to what I saying, I give him a little jab. I say, boss, this last budget said absolutely nothing about immediate measures that would be rolled out in dealing with crime. I say, and that is against the common notion in everybody's mind in the population that this government can't even catch a fly.
Actually, you had to put up Hines next time, because two of them is twins,
But now you're hearing him now going in the trenches. He investigating people and coming back to tell the population as though he has made a finding of fact that these people didn't intend to shoot the child.
Well, he walk in and go in and talk to people and Jacob just guarding him. That is what I see happen there.
So
when I tell you this man is an idiot, don't doubt what I'm telling you. I am telling you, one of the biggest idiots to sit in the chair. See, and I just call Hines a mule because he's stubborn, and a mule is a real dotish animal. He's stubborn and he dotish, because you can't tell me. And Hines asked you a question, I'm asking you again since on that. I asked you if your wife give out vouchers to a religious organization in Santa Flora, right? We had the protest down there. I asking you if your wife give out government vouchers to a particular church in Jacob Settlement in the back street. I want to help you some more. The church in the back street, the last street, C Street. If your wife give out government vouchers during the pandemic, and by whose authority? That's all I asking. I don't know if she was employed in social service. I don't know, but I just asking. And I ain't asking for nobody, I'm asking for myself. All right? So please help me. So we come back to the topic. So since this man there, Jacob, and the next Rasta, who walk in and shaking hand, doing your work, I think the only thing Hines missing, you supposed to take off the hat when you walk in and let Hines spray it on. That is what you supposed to do, because Mr. Jacob, let me tell you something. All you can't shut me up, all you could turn me off, but you can't shut me up. And secondly, as a commissioner, acting commissioner of police, it is your responsibility by constitution to act. I heard recently as deputy or ACP boy, one of them came out and said on public, the police, how the police service operates is that when a report is made, then the police have the authority to investigate. Well, I never hear. Kyle Taklar Singh was here the other day, and he nearly get vexed when I say that. He get mad. He says, see that kind of dotishness? Because how you could be telling us somebody had to come and make a report? So when you find somebody dead, how you just start an investigation without a report? And you just go and start an investigation, because the minute you start to inquire, yeah, that's the best pity. Best pity you could find out. Best pity, can't go better than that. So to the end of the day, we have a commissioner of police, a minister of national security, a prime minister, a president, all of who I consider to be part of the Cosa Nostra. That is why I consider him to be. Because it seems as though, MP, that everybody keeping everybody secret. I remember when the leader of the opposition raised the topic of the indemnity and this paper that is circulating. I remember, I mean, I want to go there, I ain't asking you to go there neither. But I remember that the DPP came out and said, you know nothing about that. But then I come in now and seeing some correspondence and some dates that go back to 2020, where Faris write, DPP respond. I put it out there so people to think. I say that for people, for you to think, I ain't deal with the DPP today, no, I want to deal with the DPP when the MP not here. When I alone here, I want to deal with the DPP. But we cannot continue to have these high-ranking government officials breach our constitution and do nothing about it.
Well,
And
Victor, I'm glad you raised it. Let me just give the viewers and listeners just a little snapshot, and then we're coming back. So stick a pin there for the moment.
Good.
Viewers and listeners, what we have seen for the last 2 weeks, it tells a whole story. And we are saying that we are not getting answers or responses from the government. What is out there? Number one, it is an uncontroverted fact, undisputed fact, that an indemnity agreement was entered between Faris Al-Rawi and Vincent Nelson. It is an undisputed fact, cannot be disputed, that you have the collapse of criminal proceedings. It is an undisputed fact that the entering of the indemnity agreement was done and entered even before the DPP entered any plea bargaining agreement with Vincent Nelson. Understand that. You have, and you're going to bring criminal prosecution against accused persons. And before you even bring that case and you carry them to court, the Attorney General enters an indemnity agreement with that accused person and make him turn state witness. The DPP has no knowledge. Now, this is the information we have, Victor. The information we have is that the DPP had no knowledge of that. So when they entered that agreement, what was the Attorney General entering that agreement for? That is not his function.
Right.
The Attorney General has no role to perform in criminal matters. He has a limited function to oversee certain civil matters, but not criminal matters. That falls under the DPP. Our constitution is clear. Anybody can read that. You can get a primary school or probably a preschool child to read the constitution, chapter 6, section 90, and they will tell you, but wait now, uncle, you know the DPP had to do this, not nobody else, you know.
Correct.
So that is clear. So what was Faris Al-Rawi? What business he had getting involved with somebody who would turn state witness, entering an indemnity agreement with him, selling out lock, stock and barrel all our Trinidad rights, whether we have oil rights, whether we have rights to natural gas, whether we have rights under the Pitch Lake, whatever rights we have, natural heritage site. Faris Al-Rawi sold out all that under the indemnity agreement to Vincent Nelson to tell him, boy, you have to testify. Lo and behold, almost a year or more than a year after, because after they entered this indemnity agreement, then you hear that the DPP's office now is plea bargaining under the plea bargaining laws of Trinidad and Tobago. The plea bargaining is under the auspices of the DPP. I want people to understand something. Who does watch Law and Order and Miami, whatever, and I don't know what crime show they're showing these days, right? You will notice when you have plea bargaining laws, that plea bargaining laws is not something that is being done in the public domain. You know how when you're doing things, you're debating matters of national interest, it has to be done under the auspices of the parliament, because that is how you have people debating it there, and that is in the public's interest. Plea bargaining is somehow in breach of that public glare, and therefore that is why the law is clear as to who can engage in plea bargaining. And so it is the DPP who has that power. So after you go on and enter some agreement which you have no authority to do, you have no power on the constitution to do, then the DPP comes long after and says, well, okay, he's plea bargaining, and that plea bargaining under that law, the DPP is empowered to do that. When they reached an agreement They went before the court, before a judge, and it was entered there. And the judge ordered a fine on what's his name? Vincent Nelson. So understand the difference. That is what we are seeing. So what was the Attorney General, who is the second highest man in command in the cabinet, was doing with Vincent Nelson as an accused person? You turn him into a state witness, because that's what the information is showing. Until you show otherwise, that is what the information is showing now. Because you have no power to do it. Why you did it in the first place? And why you sell out Trinidad and Tobago to Shylock Nelson?
Well, it had to be a conspiracy from inception, because if you go back to the inception of the same matter, you will find where when Nelson put in his claim, Faris objected. The matter went to court over that $10 million. Faris refused to pay. It went before Justice Ricky Rahim. Faris lost. Faris decided to appeal the judgment. And shortly after, he withdrew that appeal, that application.
Correct.
Pay Nelson. And next thing we hear, Nelson is a witness. So it is a clear case of a conspiracy from the inception of the matter. Now, was it to say Faris willfully hold back that money and didn't pay that money to force Nelson into a particular position where Nelson would want to comply with what or if any trump up kind of avenue to get Ramdeen and Ram Logan? I don't know. I just asking.
Correct.
Because when you look at what happened from the inception coming back up the road and then come fast track now to the indemnity and fast track to sign off the deal and cutting a flick with Nelson where you could lie even though if they charge you for perjury you don't have to pay, and on top of that take we taxpayers' money and pay over $6 million to represent Nelson in the same matter that all the charge him in. What is that?
Correct. Victor, you are spot on, and these are the questions that are not being asked, and that is why we have lawyers on the screen there now. And we'll come to that. Leave them there. That reminds me. Leave the lawyers on the screen. This is why we need answers, and in the absence of answers, there may be no answers, and if there are no answers, then the government must step down and let the people issue a fresh mandate as to who they want to run the country. Because once you start to interfere with the criminal justice system, once you start to encroach on the DPP, once you start to assume or usurp powers which you don't have in the first place, you are not governing a country. What you are doing is you're being autocratic, you are being dictatorial, you are being tyrannic, you are raining tyranny on political opponents. If somebody is charged, they have a right to go through the court system fairly and have full due process under the law. But you are not prepared to allow that, and that is what is frightening here, Victor. Because it means if you are accused, by the time you are even accused, you already go on and trump up charges and tell a man, hey, I given you an indemnity. So you give an incentive to somebody. Now, you know it is unlawful in itself, to interfere with Nelson. That is the role of the DPP, to play bargain with him. Why were you involved in that? And I can't understand, Victor, why are people not speaking on these things? The lawyers, that picture there on the screen, these are the lawyers who are affiliated. I'm not saying they are PNM electorate, you know what I'm saying, they in electoral politics, it is clear they are lawyers. Keith Scotland is there in the middle. Keith Scotland said on papers that he is offering no comment. Gilbert Peterson, who Al-Rawi says was involved, whether by way of advice or otherwise, but he was involved in that indemnity agreement, has nothing to say. Even though his colleague, another prominent senior counsel, a senior counsel who has more years at the bar as a senior counsel and as an attorney at law than those gentlemen on the screen, that is Mr. Israel Khan. He has said for those two gentlemen to clear the air, and they have not done so. Mr. Douglas Mendez, enjoying prominence at the bar, but you come and you hear that they are involved in drafting or whatever. We need to hear from them. So we need to hear something from them, Victor. So that all of this is part of the deafening silence.
So, where or how can the public have any confidence in that law association? Because if you have what we consider to be senior attorneys senior attorneys or senior counsel, SC, the big name that they like to wear. And to the end of the day, they themselves, according to Faris, they themselves who advise Faris on this document. So, is it to say that these senior counsels is Duncy head? Is it to say there is Duncy head? Because if the Constitution is clear, which I know it is, that the Director of Public Prosecution is the sole individual that have the right to enter into any negotiation in any form of plea bargaining with any accused person, they ought to know that the Attorney General and the Attorney General jurisdiction does not give him the authority to enter into any agreement. So then how could these people who call themselves senior attorney would advise, and I will support what Israel Khan say on this occasion, although I have a problem with Israel Khan too, but that is a topic for next time. But the point I'm making is this: how come you as senior attorneys, you are the bar, and you have silk, and you're dressed in a particular way, and you operate and treat the juniors as little boys because you believe, and yet to the end of the day, this is the nonsense, the dotations that these people sit down and draft together. And Faris Alwari, who I always know is a Duncy attorney because I can't remember he winning a case. But to the end of the day, when you have senior attorney and they continue to remain silent, I ain't coming to Keith Scotland yet. We go deal with it later down. But when you have these individuals,
he's still riding a bicycle to find his way down to Parliament.
But it looked like he riding the bike on the head. That's how he riding that bike. He 2 foot in the air and the bike on the head, and the head on the seat. But the point I'm making is this: where would that leave us in having confidence in the law association? Because to date, you haven't heard anything from these two senior, whatever I want to call them. If you want to say attorney, that is fine with you. But them two senior, and I feel sometimes when you get senior, like your brain does kind of lose its tension. So I don't know if in this case, when they was drafting that, or because of the age, that the brain lose some tension and they see what they do, according to Faris, being the right thing. Because you will know these individuals would have commented over the years on constitutional laws. They would have had input into many constitutional discussion and matters that will go before the court. And we in our time to deal with the judiciary today. Them is our next set of people you're going to come back for me to deal with them in a particular way. Yes. But to the end of the day, where do we go from here when you have these people who propose to be senior attorney, who will, I want to use a strong word, conspire with Faris to put this document together, throw the whole of the taxpayer at the mercy of Nelson, because Nelson now intends to sue the government, the taxpayer I should say, for some 150 million. Correct. Plus there will be some set of bag of money in pounds that have to go to some attorneys and so on. When we dig further into that, we realize that this whole thing seems to be a big conspiracy from where I sit to put money in everybody's pocket, because I saw these two gentlemen did not give an advice for free. Right? I will doubt very much that they give an advice for free. So where does that leave the people of this country in relation to that law association?
Faris Alwari said he got advice, right? So these people most likely, if they are so senior and so learned, would have given the correct advice. And if they have given the correct advice, isn't it very easy for them to come out and say they gave the correct advice? By them keeping silent, it seems to imply that they really conspired with the sitting Attorney General to concoct an illegal document.
Now, this word conspire, Archie and Victor, I want the viewers and listeners to know that we are not elevating anything beyond what it is in the public domain. Mr. Israel Khan, when he issued his second or third statement on this whole affair, He said, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Mendez, words to the effect that you all are my colleagues. And if you all don't say something, then it leaves room open that when a charge of conspiracy is being made out, that it will be Al-Rawi, Mendez, Peterson. That is not our language. So I want the public to know that here it is, you have a prominent, he's also the president of the Criminal Bar Association. When he made that second or third statement, I think his second statement, I think he was careful to say this is not coming from the criminal bar, but it's coming from me, Mr. Israel Khan. But he was saying that, you need to come out and say something. So let us take law association and then we come back to the senior councils. One, I have my views of law association and it is in the public domain. In fact, I have outright criticized the law association for their lethargy. I have really found that they kind of have a laissez-faire, way of approaching things, which, when you do law, they teach you, they say, listen, man, you want to do law and you're a junior lawyer and whatever, and they tell you, they say, the last defenders of democracy, those who will be the dividing line between anarchy and democracy would be the lawyers. This is the kind of duty you must wear on your shoulders when you become a lawyer. This is in addition to when you are representing people in private interests. But as a lawyer, you owe your country a duty. This is what they tell you, so you wear that badge on you. You can't see it, but you wear that, whatever, you sleep with it, you wake up in the morning with it. As an attorney at law, you owe your countrymen a duty. So I have my concerns about how the Law Association has been behaving for the past maybe 2 to 3 years. And I have made that known in relation to the Miami case where our Attorney General, Reggie Armour, went and he potentially perjured himself, right? He perjured himself there. I say potentially, it is not for us, but it's for the courts there to deal with that. But he had to concede. He conceded that he went and he said something which was untrue. He used the word misrepresented, but you could check any dictionary meaning what misrepresent means, So don't play with words and try to be smart. So he went over there, and you know what was the excuse? The excuse, you heard some of these clowns of lawyers coming.
Nice word. And
giving this man what we call the good boy defense. They say you have to forgive Armour. When Armour was given these instructions, he was in a hotel room in Europe or Paris or wherever the hell he was. And the man, though you don't know what room he have, it could be a small room. So I started to wonder, I said, but Victor, when you stay in the Hyatt, it's a small room, right? When you stay in the Hyatt, and a lot of the room, unless it's a big time suite and whatever, but the ordinary rooms and it don't really have, partitions and it's glass. So if you and I stayed in a room, we're in problems because I can see when you bathing and likewise you can see when I changing and all this nonsense. So I saying, but what that had to do with where the man in a hotel room have to do with what he's representing on an affidavit? You understand the kind of nonsense that they're talking? Next thing you start to say, well, they didn't have a toilet in the room, so the man really couldn't perform properly. What nonsense these lawyers getting on with? And they want the population of Trinidad and Tobago to stomach that rubbish, That is what they're getting away with. That was then. I criticized the Law Association then for how they were conducting that whole issue because they were not speaking out. When the Piaco appeal that went up to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council held that a PNM Attorney General John Jeremy had, there was a heavily biased notion in that matter because of the conduct of AG Jeremy in relation to Sherman McNichols, right, the chief magistrate. And they said that they quashed the indictment.
They tried to implicate the then DPP inside of that
right.
also.
And they quashed the indictment. Man, in split second, you had Renoka Sagram Singh coming out and she shouting up the place and saying, I will commission this opinion, I will commission that opinion, and we will find a way to bring back that charge. That is not your business. But that having been said, you know what happened when we criticized that kind of conduct again by the PNM? Why are you interfering in that for? You know what the Law Association come out and do? In record time, Victor Roberts, in record time,
statement
less than 24 hours, they come out and they say, we Law Association clear Sagram Singh of attempting to interfere with the role of the DPP. How could you do it then, Law Association, Council of the Law Association, but you could never hear all your voices in any kind of a timely manner when it comes to other issues? This same issue involving this matter with Vince Nelson and the indemnity agreement is more than 2 weeks now. I call on the Law Association, and in a very nice way, I said, Law Association, nobody is chastising you all. Nobody is denigrating you all. Nobody is telling you all to do anything that you don't want to do. But if you have a duty under the Legal Profession Act, Victor, you know this. I have heard this in your program before. These people have a duty to ensure that the confidence in the administration of justice is upheld.
Correct.
They have a duty to ensure that the rule of law is being preserved. They have a duty to ensure that the government is in check. And they are not saying anything whatsoever. Well, they came out last week, the Friday before Diwali, and they put out a statement basically allowing Armour to buy some time. Armour come out now on Wednesday morning and said, I am answering no questions. I am bound by sub judice. That was Wednesday. Today's Friday night. You mean you couldn't come out? You must have considered that Armour would have had a response, or you must have considered as part of your counsel that, hey, you know, whether this thing is sub judice or not, you should have already had something on the record to say, Mr. Armour, you are wrong. You are not bound by sub judice. And so call upon him. You have to exercise that pressure. If you don't do it, who's going to do it?
You see, my brother, the Law Association, the PNM, is a feeding ground for the Law Association. So when the Honorable Leader spoke on that forum that night and exposed the money that has been paid to some of these attorneys, let me tell you something. Some of these attorneys in this country, some of these senior attorneys in this country, as far as I'm concerned, they're sick and rotten from the top. Money seems to be their law. Money seems to be their credibility. Money seems to be the way of life for them. And when you hear you have an institution who see the dollar more than what it is bound by, when they see the dollar more than the constitution of the Law Association, when they see the dollar more than they could see natural justice, we will continue to be in this situation. And I was asking an attorney recently, I think it was Sky, how could the serious, sincere, law-abiding attorneys form themselves into something else other than that? Because this Law Association is also contaminated by the PNM, and I make no qualms in saying that. They are contaminated just like every other independent institution in this country. Contaminated. You look at the Police Service Commission, you know why that breach could have occurred? It's because of the contamination of the PNM. You look at the EBC, you know why we are in this mess? Because of the contamination of the PNM. I am looking at the judiciary, and you know why the judiciary have nothing to say even with the behavior of the president, the behavior of Blitz Sipasad, and the behavior of Rowley and all of them? Because of the contamination. We have a Chief Justice sitting in office with several allegations against him. And we had a Prime Minister who see it fit upon himself to take the position that there is not enough evidence that warrants a tribunal, where the Chief Justice would have been able to either clear himself or face the consequences. So where is the public trust in all of these institutions? There is nowhere there. And once again, you have the police commissioner, who I also believe is contaminated. So to the end of the day, my brother, where we going as a country? The Attorney General, an embarrassment, a failure, a public embarrassment, an international embarrassment, yet still Rowley would not remove him. We have Faris Alwari, another big embarrassment in this country, yet still he remained there. We have Foster Cummins with so much allegation to answer, yet still Rowley stand up and say, look, I stand by my ministers. So to the end of the day, when the Law Association would not come out and make direct statement according to law, according to constitution, when they will give in and pamper and powder the wrongdoing that is happening, when the Law Association could support Armour It tells you that the law association is rotten from the head. That is what it is. I am proud of those junior attorneys who brought that motion, who voted against that behavior of Reginald Amor. I am proud of you, and I am asking you, young attorneys, to hold the flag high. My colleague now said it here, that when you are a lawyer, you wear that badge of integrity. You have to stand up for democracy. And today, it seems as though democracy gone down the drain. And you know what is sad about that, brother? It's just the junior attorneys who standing in the gap and going out on a limb to try to hold this country together. And for that, I commend you and every other junior attorney who take that stand against what is happening in this country. We are at a very bad place, my brother. We are at a place where democracy seems to be on the shelf. It seems that this country has now become a law by whatever Rowley say. That is what it appears to be. So Rowley could do as he want, he could say as he want, and nobody, no independent institution will challenge him. And that is the sad part about this whole scenario. Keith Scotland, if we could talk a little bit about Keith Scotland's involvement in this Nelson affairs, so the people will have a little more understanding as to how the thing not only stay with Faris and with Kewal Singh and with the next two so-called senior who advise, but we could show how the thing spread a little bit to how it was exposed in England, who exposed it, whether it was Stuart Young or who it was, and how another PNM MP is also involved in this whole Nelson affair.
Well, Victor, in terms of Keith Scotland, again, in the media they have reported that when contacted for comment, Keith Scotland said he has no comment. When Faris Al-Rawi had his press conference, shortly after the collapse of the criminal proceedings, Faris Al-Rawi indicated, and he was particularly impressing or emphasizing that the person who was representing Vincent Nelson was one Shankar Bidesi. Now, I don't know why he was really hung up on Shankar Bidesi. You must know as a lawyer, and you are overseeing, these are sensitive proceedings, these are high-profile proceedings, you must know. But it turns out that it was somebody in Keith Scotland's chambers who had initiated those proceedings on behalf of Keith Scotland. That is on the record. So when you have to file a document in the court, a civil claim, you'll have to put who the lawyers are on the top right-hand corner. So it may be Dinesh Rambally, it may be Kyle Taklal Singh, it may be Victor Roberts, it may be whosoever it is, and you have the list of lawyers there. The lawyers who were recited in that document filed in the court were in fact lawyers in his chambers. That's number one. But Al-Rawi didn't say that. Why not? The second thing is that there's an email which has been circulating. I am not in a position to verify its authenticity, but you are in a position to verify whether that is in fact an email. And it was an email which Vincent Nelson purportedly sent to Keith Scotland, telling Keith Scotland that, well, to the effect that I am no longer desirous of your services.
Fire you.
Right? And he basically fires Scotland, right? So he tells Scotland, by her time with you, yes, I go and buy some other, but he would charge less fees, you understand? So he go on somewhere else. So that is what you have. But the point about it is that this network and all of you are sitting in the government. Keith Scotland may not be a cabinet member, but he sits in the government. And therefore the question arises, you all have to answer these questions for us. We all have these questions. I have made the point in relation to Douglas Mendes. If a junior attorney should somehow breach any of the rules of ethics that are embodied at within, but it is embodied at the back of the Legal Profession Act, Victor, the court will probably give a directive when they have to deal with a matter, and an attorney at law appearing in the matter has done something which is, in their estimation, in breach of the rules. They will say, I am referring this to the Law Association Disciplinary
Committee, right.
That is for any lawyer, junior lawyers. How is it that, and I have raised this and I am yet to get some response from the Law Association, I have raised that if it is Mr. Douglas Mendes, according to Al-Rawi, is intimately involved in the advising and settling. Settling means that you basically approve the final draft.
Mm-hmm.
You have been involved in that kind of intimacy with that indemnity agreement. That indemnity agreement is now the subject of a lot of furor, public, and also it has now reached before the courts in a civil claim, albeit in a civil claim.
Right.
How can you, being so intimately involved with the genesis of that document, now be representing the interest of the state of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in these civil proceedings? Because he's lead senior counsel in that matter too. And that is a breach, and I am of the humble opinion that that is a breach of the Legal Profession Act. A counsel cannot appear, whoever it is, you cannot appear in a matter where you could potentially be a witness to matters which are more than merely formal. And that is not formal matters, that is the genesis of the document. And Victor, we are seeing these breaches and the Law Association, as you are saying, what is the Law Association doing? So we have to call upon the Law Association again to get their act together and to act in the interest of the public.
But let me ask another question. Who can I bring a complaint to against the Law Association? Is there anybody per se that I could bring a complaint to against the Law Association? Like I could write some institution.
Well, the Law Association is meant to be a self-regulating body, and why I say that is because they ought to have elections every year.
Right.
When you have elections every year, remember this is the council of the Law Association. So basically, what we mean by that is the executive.
Mm-hmm.
The executive of the Law Association is drawn from its own membership. So every year, and it is annual. So every year you would have 5 junior members. I believe junior means less than 10 years call. I was a junior member for a couple years. Then I left council, but I am proud to say in my era I was there with Martin Daly. I mean, when you see, it was a pleasure. I mean, I enjoyed serving under Martin Daly, being the president of the Law Association. And in fact, my second year serving, he had actually encouraged me. He said, Dinesh, I want you to come back on. So I went back on there, but you're looking at a Law Association back in those days, they stood for something.
Yeah.
It stood for something in the public domain, led by people like Martin Daly, senior counsel. Then you have also senior ordinary members. So you have ordinary, junior ordinary members, senior ordinary members. Then you have treasurer, you have vice president, president, etc. So it is self-regulating in that way.
The president now is who?
The president is Mrs. Sophia Choate, senior counsel. So what you have is you have people there, and I think you could lodge you could lodge a complaint directly with the executive of the Law Association to say to say exactly what you have observed,
Right.
and you have concerns over it, and you can make your document public as the case may be, because you are not going there to hide behind any cloak of secrecy.
Correct.
And let them know this is what, as a member of the public, you feel about the Law Association. And they have a duty to respond to you. They may disagree with you. They may say it is under consideration, whatever it is, but they have a duty to consider it and respond to you. And they are self-regulating, and by that, every year, let the population know. The population themselves may be fed up, and then the population of lawyers, the membership of the legal profession will have its say next year, March, or whenever is the next election. So I think you might inform the membership of the Law Association, the general membership, when you put your concerns forward.
Yeah, because I have some serious concerns that I need to put forward.
So I want to say that, here it is, you have Mr. Douglas Mendes, in addition to having been called upon by Mr. Israel Khan. Now, Victor, is not a matter of personalities here. No, I don't think any of us have anything personal against them. These are issues. We are talking about issues. The issues we are talking about here goes to governance. It goes to democracy. It goes to the heart of the legal profession. It goes to the confidence in the administration of justice. If no one has confidence in the administration of justice, do you know what will happen?
And that is it. Now, in law, there is also something that you were very familiar with that we'll call a precedent. When you allow a government, one government, to set a precedent in terms of doing things that is not really within the precincts of the Constitution, and you allow that government to escape with it, then what would stop another government from doing the same thing and escape with it?
Well, Victor, you're right. If you set a precedent and there's a bad precedent, it means in time to come, everybody will have a bad precedent.
No, I have no problem.
They wouldn't have to observe high standards of office.
Exactly. No, I don't have a problem with someone testing the Constitution, because I remember, I believe it was Basdev Pandey who first tested the Constitution when he had appointed losing members of an election as senators. And I know that it had a big hullabaloo, and I think somebody went to court with it, and so on and so on. But the fact remains is that nothing was illegal. While people were saying that candidate lost and he shouldn't be here and he shouldn't be in the Senate and so on and so on. So I have no problem with people testing the Constitution. But when people blatantly breach the Constitution, like what this government has been doing over the years, we go take it actually. I mean, it's a serious situation. Welcome, caller.
Good night, Mr. Robert. Good night to everybody. This is a caller from Pinal. I don't understand why the police want to lock you up for. I know hearing about that.
Actually, I didn't hear him too clear. Yeah, go ahead, caller. Ask the question again.
Yeah, I know hearing on the beginning of the program, the police want to lock you up. I can't understand why police want to lock you up. I ain't hearing nothing about that.
Well, the police believe that the protests that taken place throughout the constituency of Labre, they are saying that they believe I am responsible. But seeing that I am not protesting, I am not there, I ain't cutting down no tree, I ain't burning no tire. There's a instruction that was given from a source that I received that they are planning to charge me for possession of arms and ammunition. So I don't know if they have it already to bring, or if they might give me one or what. Let me go there. I don't know if they might give me one of the PNM financiers, one that what they have, because see, they had a PNM financer the other day, and he had about 28 gun or something in the possession. I know, but I the possession.
Hello?
Yes, caller, welcome.
Yeah, this is the caller from Pinal. I got cut off just now.
Go ahead.
I got cut off. I didn't hear what you said. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, caller. I didn't hear it clear at all. Welcome, caller.
Very good evening, Mr. Roberts and Mr. Rambally and Archie. Are you hearing me?
Go ahead, caller.
Right. So I was telling Mr. Roberts when Dante was here, probably he did not. I would use this opportunity to clear it up. The president in St. Lucia was charged for perverting the court justice. He was arrested before the prime minister, and the prime minister wrote to Dr. General broken it up. And what I wanted, that crime to start to stand, but there is interest, and we shall have state president. All the best.
Somehow we're getting it very, this is really in effect an apology to the two callers, but somehow or the other we're getting the calls very delayed and muffled in one.
Yeah.
I don't know what is happening, so we really can't, I don't know if you...
No, I ain't...
That particular caller was breaking up.
Yes.
All right.
I know the weather is very, inclement weather, it is bad, but I encourage people to call, but apologies, we really didn't get those two calls.
Correct.
I really must apologize.
Yeah. So, but in a nutshell, what I'm saying is this. why can't these institutions, we are not asking the law association or the judiciary to be political. We are asking these institutions to stand by the principles that they themselves set out. That is what we are asking. Stand by their own principles. Speak out when there is infringement as far as the law, the constitution is concerned. Speak out against the wrongdoing and speak sternly. Because you see, when you allow any boss man that you get a job from. Welcome, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Robert, Mr.
Good.
Dinesh, Archie, and to everybody out here.
Good evening. We're hearing you.
First
Mr. Daniel
thing,
Calls.
we couldn't hardly, that last caller, we didn't hear anything that he was saying. And we need some volume as well, right? Now, when under the partnership government, Hines condoned protest action. You remember when he said he wanted to see 250,000 people on Rice Road, to block Rice Road?
Mm-hmm.
But today it is wrong to protest. So it's different stroke for PNM folk. And it is very distasteful that up to now, nothing, we are hearing absolutely nothing from Rowley, the Law Association, the DPP, concerning any charges, or even what Amos said, he's not replying concerning what it is went on. But if they feel that we are going to sweep it under the carpet, no way. Thanks a lot and have a good night.
That voice, Archie and Victor, it
Miss
sounded
Santa
like
Cruz.
Miss Santa Cruz.
Yeah, it is.
So if it is Miss Santa Cruz, I want to say that my experience in receiving calls and actually listening to programs, Miss Santa Cruz has her facts.
Yeah.
Right? So Miss Santa Cruz, if that was in fact you, thank you very much. Her facts are usually very accurate,
yeah.
and therefore when she's talking about an instance of where it was being permitted under Hines was in fact condoning it, then I know she has facts to back that up. Yeah, different strokes for different folks, Victor.
I don't know what to say in this country right now. Sometimes I just see what is wrong with the people in this country. I don't know if we allow ourselves to be blinded by race. I don't know if we get docile, if we get dotish, if we get stupid. I don't know what, but I cannot see for all the tea in China. You know, that was a thing when you're small, they say all the tea in China. What is happening in this country, and people just casual, like if nothing is wrong.
Well,
like they doesn't understand the effects of what happening here in governance today will affect their children and grandchildren down the road. Like they're not seeing that.
Well, I'm glad you said children and grandchildren. And this is what I want to ask the population. I mean, there is some desensitization. In other words, like I feel people have become desensitive to the crime around them. It's just so much. It's so much to read and assimilate on a daily basis, to watch on the news, to read in the papers, to hear on the radio, the social media programs. So it is a lot. I understand that. But can you imagine, you said children and grandchildren, can you imagine that children are being gunned down with impunity? Children, I'm not talking about teenagers even, I'm talking about
2-year-old.
yeah, 2-year-old,
1-year-old,
3-year-old,
yeah.
4-year-old, right? They are being gunned down. And you know what the Minister of National Insecurity, Hines, says? He says the children were at the wrong place at the wrong time. What stupidity is that about? Victor, that means to say that if your child goes out to play lawfully in the park across the street, goes across the road, walk down the road, and they go on in the savannah, you know, and criminals do whatever they have to do and they shoot your child, not the criminals, you know.
Hello?
The criminals apparently have a code, and that's what he's saying. They have a code. They break in their own code. What nonsense can you expect again from this Minister of National Security?
We come back to that. Welcome, caller.
Mr. Victor Robert,
Yes, sir. Good night.
RG from Canada.
Yes, Canada. Go ahead.
I just called to let you know, with what them police and them trying to do to you,
Boy, like you had to start a dress and put on a pants without any pocket. So when they hold you, they can't put no gun in your pocket to say you have gun and ammunition.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy, take care. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir. Well, that's what they will tend to do. And you see, the sad part about it is sometimes when you expose one plan, they go to our next plan. But nevertheless, I believe that the life of every individual is in the hands of a supreme being. So coming back to Hines.
Yeah, Hines' position, Victor. And the population, you reading this, and you stomaching that garbage. The man says the children were at the wrong place at the wrong time. The children, you know.
But could it be Hines speaking about himself? Just could it be possible he's speaking about himself and just can't say he talking about himself? Because I think that he Hines is in the wrong place at the right time.
Well, if that is the case, Hines is the luckiest man in the world.
And Dinesh, that is why I said earlier on, when a man is a mule, I think you're over dotish, because long time days I have it to say that a mule is not only a stubborn animal but one of the most dotish animal. I will look into why they say that. But when I look at Hines, when I look at Fitzgerald Hines, I am telling you, I seen a mule. I seen a mule by action. I seen a mule by looks. I seen a mule by behavior. I seen a mule by utterance. Because how could you, as a national security minister, who understand your portfolio, your position, who understand what is expected of you in that position, would come out and speak that nonsense by saying, this child in the wrong place at the wrong time? I think that is less than a statement, and it's less than anybody with common sense, because Minister Hines, and I like to call him that sometime occasionally, I think he spends so much time educating himself. He spends so much time educating himself. And when I mean educating himself, looking for these high grades, high grades that you're to go. Welcome, caller.
Right. Are you hearing me clear now?
Yeah, I hear you a little better now.
Okay, what I was saying earlier on is that the president of the Senate in St. Lucia, Mr. Stanley Felix, was charged for misbehavior in public office and for breaking the course of justice. The Prime Minister, this happened a few weeks ago, the Prime Minister wrote to the Governor General revoking his appointment. And when I talk to you about it, you said, the law is different there and here and whatnot. But in a democratic society and in a democratic country, breaking those two laws, it doesn't matter which country you're in. It is against the law. And why we don't have precedent don't set here where these people should be hauled before the courts at the same time. All the best.
Speaking about himself, caller, in this Trinidad and Tobago, in this day and age, there is no respect for law and order from those people who sit in government and even some of those who sit in independent institution. If you are to look at the behavior of the Speaker of the House, you will understand what I'm saying. If you are to look at the Senate President, you will understand what I'm saying. If you are to look at the President of the Republic, you will understand. If you look at the Commissioner of Police, you will understand. If you look at the EBC, you will understand. And if you look at the Law Association and the Judiciary, well, I think you will over-understand. And that is the sad reality in this country. That is the reality. Fitzgerald Hines, I think, in all the ministerial portfolio that Hines hold over the years, I have never seen Hines being successful once. From the inception of Patrick Manning coming straight up through the rank and file of the PNM, I have never seen Fitzgerald Hines once.
But I want to object to you calling Minister Hines a mule, though. I have to strongly object to that. But you know why I strongly object? A mule does do work. A mule has a legacy of pushing a lot of load and doing work, Victor. So that is my objection. Don't put Emil in that position.
Okay, I'll take back that. You see, Heinz spends so much of his time trying to get these high grades. I don't know what he want to become. But too much high grades will also help you to sleep. Because remember, high grades, you just have to set up, you know.
Well, Victor, let us just examine something, right? We spoke about the fact that he said the children were in the wrong place at the
High
wrong
grades.
time, right? And the high grades. He also said that, the woman, I think what he said was that the criminals did not mean to kill women.
More high grades. That higher grades. Higher, that the highest grades.
Yes, what is Minister Hines smoking these days? What is he doing? I don't know. What water are you drinking from Marvin Gonzalez? I don't know.
Welcome, caller.
Good night, Brother Victor.
Good night, sir.
How you doing, sir?
Fine.
Yeah, man. Well, Faris Harari, what happened there with that, what do you call it, the indemnity, where a lot of taxpayers' money went down the drain? I think it's high time that the people should be out already in front of his office or in front of his residence and demand his resignation.
Right, so I'll be calling you very soon, because very soon I will be walking somewhere. I will let you know very soon. I'm talking about so soon you might be amazed. So this is the opportunity. When you pelt a stone, let us see who pelted. So I'll be calling you on that walk very soon. So back to Heinz.
Yes, so I don't know, Victor, what we can say about Heinz again. But I want to say something, and this is on a serious note. See, we have a call coming in there, Archie.
Welcome, caller.
Yeah, I'll call back again because it appears something went wrong with the line. The connection.
Right, so what I said to you is that I am going on that walk very soon. So I'll be contacting you to go with me when I go in. I know who I'm speaking with.
There is no problem.
Thank you, brother.
And on that note, Victor, I think people must understand. Somebody sent me a quote whilst we were in the program, and this is what it says. Silence becomes cowardice when occasion demands speaking out the whole truth and acting accordingly. This is a quote of Mahatma Gandhi. You know, when you read A Long Walk to Freedom, this is Nelson Mandela's, basically his autobiography. This is Mandela writing about his own struggles. And Mandela himself was very interested in knowing that there would be systems in place that would ensure that you don't have dictators ruling. Remember, Mandela was fighting against apartheid. He was this is a man who, he had to remain 20 plus years. I think it was 26 years, whatever it was. In prison. And they were sending him pictures of his wife and whatever else. And this is a man in prison. Imagine what these people struggled for. They struggled to ensure that when their country got freedom, or when they themselves and their peoples got freedom, that they would be involved in a democracy that would embody these sacred principles. Victor, we have that in our Constitution. We have those principles embodied in our Constitution. And what you are seeing is a total railroad of it. So what our freedom fighters were fighting for to get in the Constitution, we now have it in our Constitution, and we are seeing it being eroded. What does that spell for you, our brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, our citizens? What does it spell for all of us? It spells a return to a point in time when we are in slavery. It points, and I don't mean slavery in the sense of, people beating you with a whip and what have you, but it is a slavery where you are now at the women fancy of who is in power. And that power is a false power. It is a false sense of pride. It is people who are utilizing the fact that you exercise the right to vote, and now they have been really putting themselves in a position of interfering with all the checks and balances, which we call the independent institutions. They're interfering with all of those things to make sure that they remain in power. And they are not doing their job, Victor. So I want to know when you are having this march. I am interested in knowing when you're having it, because I want to participate in it. And I want everybody to find their voices. This is not a chastising of my brothers and sisters. We don't do that. But it is really an appeal, Victor. This is as much as we can do. We can only appeal to you. I am glad to get your invitation, and I'm glad to join you here because I see the tremendous work you're doing here. And so when you put out this kind of effort and whatever, we all must reflect this kind of effort by getting together. And let us join in making sure that we send the signal. The government must step down. We must ensure we have a free and fair elections. And you, the people, will be able to give the fresh mandate as to who you want to run the country.
Correct. Welcome, Kola.
Good night, gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One for you, Victor, and one for Mr. Rambally. First of all, based on all the information that people like Rambally has brought to our attention, it is clear that we are in a dictatorship. So my question to you, Mr. Roberts, is why is it you have to lead this charge? Don't we have an opposition leader? And my question to Mr. Rambally, seeing that the situation is as it is, who in the international arena can we reach out to really stop this nonsense from taking place? I listen off there.
So, the first question, sorry, go ahead, Victor. Sir.
So the first, you can cut them off like you listen. So let me tell you why, Kola, I am going to lead that charge. Simply because I have a constitutional responsibility to stand up in this country for what is right and to forbid what is wrong. I am leading this charge anytime, all the time, on behalf of the poor, the oppressed, and the downtrodden. Added to that, the opposition leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, she is leading the charge in terms of not only fighting against the dictatorial behavior and policies of the country. She has a responsibility to manage, and she also has that responsibility to appoint members of the opposition to deal with certain things in the way that she so see it fit. And added to that, the leader of the opposition continued to fight inside of the parliament. The leader of the opposition have a support team. I am part of that support team. And coming out of that support team, while the leader fight inside, then those of us who supports the leader, then we continue to fight on the outside. And that is as far as I will go today.
Victor, you know, just to piggyback on what you have said.
Yeah.
I know that the leader of the opposition is a very strategic person. A person who carries with her a lot of wisdom, political wisdom and legal wisdom, and you know, she has been through the trenches. I think when you look at the caliber of politicians that actually staff the present parliament, she belongs to a category of a very rare category of somebody who went through as an alderman and being in the local government and then going up in the ranks, senator, and then you had electoral level as MP, and then even in party positions holding different positions, but significant positions nonetheless. So you're talking about somebody who has been from the very beginning at the lowest levels in the politics, but ascending to the very highest level. So when you have that kind of transgression, I don't know at this point in time that it is a fair question to ask, well, why Victor Roberts is leading this charge and not the leader of the opposition. If the leader of the opposition does not allow others to lead the charge like yourself, or even in some instances, as she often does, she will say, Rambally, you are the one to talk in the press conference. Where are persons like Victor Roberts and myself going to apply our own individual experiences and bring it to bear in the public.
Nowhere.
So you can't always have and expect. I am sure if Victor Roberts leads the march, you will see that support coming in a very furious format from the leader of the opposition. And I think people must understand that if it was any other way, then you would have this notion of, well, is a one-person party. You understand? So there's a lot of wisdom in things that, you may see, but you must always sit back and question. And I am telling people outright, and that's why I'm saying I'm piggybacking on that. The leader of the opposition is somebody who spares no moment. In other words, she gives all of her time to all of the activists, to all of the MPs, to all of the senators.
Correct.
I am fortunate that from time to time, or I should say rather many times, I would see some WhatsApp messages. You need to look into this. It may be an article in the papers, and she is of the view that, Dinesh, this is really up your alley. Can you look into this for me? Right? I think that's essentially what she's doing. And then sometimes she may round robin a group of persons because we all have legal expertise, and she will say, I want you all as lawyers to give me an opinion on this. And so this is how it works. It is not autocratic. It's a democratic fashion of leadership. And as I say, when you look at her and her track record, Victor, from the very bottom rising to the very top, you can understand when she does certain things, there is political wisdom in it.
Of course.
It brings me to the second question now, that what can be done. Now, I know the leader of the opposition has, in her political wisdom, established within the party an international affairs committee. I know MP Rodney Charles is in that committee. I know Senator Wade Mark is on that committee. And there is a mix. I think you have some I want to use the word junior loosely, but maybe I should say some younger members of the party on board on that. I believe Mr. Nicholas Morris is on that. You have I think Dr. Rudal Munilal is on that, if I'm not mistaken. And so what they do is that from time to time they co-opt other persons to get on board as well. But there is an International Affairs Committee, and I do know in relation to what we have seen in the past, they have written, as particularly in relation to some of the treatment that has been meted out to the opposition in the parliament. They reached out to international parliamentary, Commonwealth parliamentary leagues. Then you had recently in relation to the collapse of the Police Service Commission. I know yet again a letter was written, and we did get a response. In fact, it was in the media. We got a very positive response where they indicated that they are seeing things and they had cause for concern. So what you do is you reach out to the international bodies, and again I am saying that the leadership, the leader with her wisdom, we do have a committee, and I know for a fact that that International Affairs Committee, they have been meeting and they have been talking about certain things. I don't want to preempt them because I'm not a member of that committee, but I could tell you that from being on the inside and knowing what this committee does, I have no doubt that you will see something rolled out in a very short space of time. Sometimes you learn about it when we get the response.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you have to gauge the issue at hand and the sensitivity of it. But, something will come to the forefront at some point in time. So that's
Kola, we hope that you answer your question. We hope that information you get was enough for you, because for me, you ain't getting anymore.
No, but we respect, we must thank the callers for their questions.
Of course,
and I respect, of course, there may be angles that they are looking at, the whole political landscape from, and we respect.
Well, I'll tell you something. I just be cautious in answering questions, because sometimes some callers may genuinely want to find out or have some concerns. But then again, there are some other individuals who seek to get a particular information to use it for the wrong purpose.
Yes.
So I just answer my questions in a particular way, and that's it.
Well, the UNC is a very transparent party.
Yeah.
I would not have joined the UNC, Victor. I know you would not have joined the UNC either, if it is you were not of the belief that the United National Congress is a transparent party. I think in any other party, you would expect disagreements and differences and whatever. And those things are worked out. There are processes that we follow. But again, it is a party which is a very transparent one and always seeking the interest of the citizenry.
So MP, your closing words. I now glimpse the time, and I see we 5 minutes past the hour.
The time.
So your closing words.
I hope your viewers and callers forgive me for us passing the time. I want to say that, Victor, it really I could not find anything better to do on a Friday evening than to be here with you, because I have enjoyed this program. I am glad that I'm able to bring hopefully some measure of solace and support to you and your family when you are being harassed. I am saying harassed and intimidated, attempted intimidation by the police service. What I want to tell callers and listeners, viewers, and I say this to the police service as well, you know, when you make the mistake to intimidate or harass an individual like Victor Roberts, you're calling trouble on yourself. You are calling trouble on yourself, because the only thing you will do is you will strengthen this man's resolve to make sure that every day of the week from now till thy kingdom come, that Victor Roberts' resolve will be strengthened in fighting for the people of this country. And Victor, I know that about you, and that is why I will join in support of you. So I leave that as a closing. Victor.
My brother, the honor is all mine to have you on the program here this afternoon. I am certain that the listening public would have gathered some clearer understanding as to what we faced, what is happening with our democracy, what is going on with this whole Nelson Faris affair. And I know for a fact that the taxpayers will gather more information and look into this more in depth, because the funding that this whole scenario would be coming out of the taxpayer pocket. So I urge you to stand strong. Let us stand together as a country for what is right. Let us put aside this kind of negative behavior, whether UNC in power, I will let them do what they want, and when PNM in power, you will let them do what they want. Let us demand from everybody transparency, good governance. That is the recipe for the future generation. And we have the responsibility to stand and to ensure, as the more mature citizens, we have a responsibility, especially those with the legal minds, to stand up and ensure that the children, those who come after us, will have some sort of principle to live and to die by. We want to thank you for allowing us to intrude your homes even after the hour. We do trust and hope. Archie, douglAR Politics tomorrow afternoon?
Hot. I just received the script, so that will be on at 7:30. We have a very powerful press conference on Sunday, and the lineup for Monday, real big lineup for Monday, so plenty action over the next 3 days.
Right, so there you have it, douglAR Politics tomorrow, press conference Tuesday, and Monday night forum Monday. So stay blessed, stay safe, go with God. We out.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, it's plenty pressure. We have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Since you coming forward, you is a big failure. Collapse the economy and it do nothing for we. What you have to show, we don't really know. What you have to show, we don't really know. Sorry, Trinidad and Tobago, but Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. Oh, so Rowley really have to go. The crime rate is out of hand, they're shooting up we blessed land. We need more protection, it's time to take some action. We living in fear, it's too much to bear. We living in fear, it's too much
a code, a mafiosi code. We keep each other's secret. It's only when you break rank, you go there and expose us, and for that, we're going to kill you politically. It's the code of the Cosa Nostra. As long as we stay together, we will survive together. And we agree not to breach the code of secrecy.